Hello, and welcome back to another installment of Advance Your Wealth with Homer Smith. I'm your host, Ryan Ruff. It's great to have you back with us for today's episode. Homer, standing in the on-deck circle. He'll be joining me momentarily. But first, look, we want to thank you as you guys are coming in here on the Facebook live stream, or if you're joining us, after the fact and listening to this in the car on your way to work, or watching it on your laptop, after a hard day's work. Either way, we're happy to have you here. We've got a great conversation teed up for you. And also, if you are joining us on the live stream today, we'd love to have your feedback. Homer and I were chatting, and we would love to get more of you, our audience, involved in our shows. So therefore, if you've got any questions that pertain to the topic at hand that we're discussing that day, anything that you'd like clarified or elaborated upon, please throw that in the comments below. We'll see that information coming through. We'll be able to acknowledge some of your questions, and answer them on today's live stream. We'll carve out a little time towards the end of the show to do so. So, you hear anything you like, or it would allow, like it to be elaborated on, feel free to chime in. We'd love to get some feedback from you. But either way, we've got a great topic lined up for you today. As you probably know, Homer and I have hammered home a lot of different topics pertaining to the family dynamic and its dynamics surrounding the wealth specifically. A few episodes back, Homer and I touched on the idea of a family constitution. Not necessarily a legal document, but a pretty formal document in that its objective is to align the family, sure, the matriarch and patriarch, but also, the children, the heirs that will be one day, to make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to the wealth, the family goals for the wealth, so on and so forth. There are too many issues that can arise, some of which we'll be outlining today, but there are too many issues that can be, that can rise to the forefront of concern when everyone's just not aligned within a given family on how that wealth should be trickled down, how that wealth should be ultimately utilized. So today's topic, we've got the 5 critical wealth planning mistakes of a successful family business. It's an interesting one. It's the mistakes, though, of a successful family business. And luckily, we've got Homer with us to dive into what these mistakes are. So, hey, Homer, great to see you. How's it going today?
It's going really well, Ryan. Glad to be here, and glad to be talking on such an important topic here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, family businesses are the backbone of our country. Too many times, are we spending an afternoon popping into the mom and pop corner on the or shop on the corner, grabbing a drink, grabbing some food, grabbing a service, a good, anything. And we ultimately benefit from it. They're so important to our lifestyle and our economy. But running a family business is a whole nother gambit. Running a successful family business, Homer, honestly, it's going to take a tremendous amount of working hard and working smart. It's that old adage. But also navigating the family dynamics along the way, that can always be tricky too. So today, we're examining some of those key mistakes that too many successful family businesses are making these days, and some of those mistakes that you see in your practices over at Convergent Wealth Partners. So Homer, to get our conversation started today, when it comes to family businesses as a whole, talk to us a little bit about the importance of why wealth planning overall needs to be just at the forefront of a family business.
Yeah, I think one important comment to make as well is that while a lot of people think of family businesses as is really only the mom and pop on the corner, it really some of the largest businesses in the country are still family-run private businesses, and so they can
Of
be
course.
any size really, right? And they're the foundation, to your point, of successful economies around the world, and probably one of the oldest business models that there is out there. And I think one of the big distinctions, though, with family businesses is that the controlling family is really all about creating continuity and trying to ensure that that business thrives and maintains the control and the ownership within that family. And really, the most successful family businesses employ the idea of wealth planning. So they're bringing the best tax, legal, and financial minds together to help them construct a plan that's going to be cohesive and really is going to work in concert with each other. So it's really about the bigger picture planning for those most successful family businesses.
Right, and for those successful family businesses, Homer, there's a lot at play. There's a lot happening, like you said, top legal, financial, tax experts around them, helping them position themselves for a better position in the future. Given all of those moving parts, I would imagine it's safe to say that there are plenty of risks that lie ahead of them for mistakes. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And one of the biggest mistakes that we see, I want to be honest with our own industry, is oftentimes the leaders of these family businesses are just working with the wrong professionals. It's not like
Mm.
they're bad professionals. It's not like they're making, intentional mistakes. It's just they may not be the right fit for that business at that time. And they might be, technically brilliant with their strategies that they're putting together, but they just, might be a strategy that just only fits within a very narrow world. And because that's their only solution that they can bring to the table, they're missing out on a lot of other important considerations that that family business owner and that family business team should be looking at. And so it's the old adage of, a hammer only sees a nail. If as an advisor or as an attorney or as a CPA, if you only have one main strategy, even if that hammer is an awesome hammer, even if it's the best technical solution that you have, whenever you're meeting with an owner, everything's going to look like a nail. And so that solution is always going to be the same. And the reality is, private businesses and family businesses in particular, like we spoke earlier, can be anywhere from very simple businesses to extremely complex businesses and everything in between. And there is no one size fits all solution to any family business. So you need to have a team that can really bring you all of the potential solutions available and really work with the family to pick the right and best solutions for that family.
Sure, absolutely. Homer, we've hit on this topic a lot in terms of the conversations that not only just you at Convergent Wealth Partner have with new clients, existing clients, but just the stress testing process overall, and how there's such a human element that comes into that conversation that needs to be at the very top of all these conversations to understand family dynamics, family goals, things of that nature. So that being said, what should family business owners, and decision makers overall, Homer, be looking for to tell them that, hey, this wealth planner, this is your guy, this is your gal, this is the individual you should be working with?
Yeah, family businesses should really be looking to engage a wealth planner that's really interested in understanding the really deep dynamics of the family. To your point, what we call the human element. So everything and everyone that's going to be important to that family and that business, and everything and everybody who'll be impacted by the decisions of the people running the family business. So it's really getting to know them on that deep level. And oftentimes, what we know of advisors in our world is we're really focused on being technically proficient. We've got great solutions and great advice around those technically proficient solutions, but we oftentimes miss what's really important to the family because we're too focused on just being technically brilliant and not focused on what the family really wants.
Sure. And Homer, what would be another, big wealth planning mistake that you're seeing too many successful, family businesses making? Obviously, they've got to pick the right professional to work with. What's another mistake that they should avoid?
I think a big one right now, and then we're going to date this live stream. So for future people watching this, we're gonna date it a bit here, but it's really an overemphasis on taxes.
Mm.
And I know that saying an overemphasis on taxes right now might seem a little odd given some of the changes we're seeing out there in the tax proposals from the Biden administration, especially those that are going to have a particular impact on business owners. And there are a lot of great solutions when it comes to taxes. We can put structures to get together to reduce or even eliminate future taxes within the business. We can create solutions that could provide some discounts in terms of passing assets on to future family members. So there are a lot of great things out there that we can do, but the challenge is if we, let the tax tail wag the dog too much, we often miss what's really important to that family. And we can end up creating structures that down the road, while they were great from a tax planning standpoint, can end up creating a lot of conflict within the family because the structures become too inflexible based on how
Mm.
we set them up for taxes. So while it is really important, and while most of our business owner clients are really concerned and focused on taxes, it's not their only concern. And we got to make sure we're balancing the issues around taxes with all of the other issues that a family business and family dynamics are dealing with. So it's not just one area that we need to focus on.
Right, right. I appreciate you saying that, and we're going to get into a few more mistakes down the road. But for anybody that's joining us here on the live stream, I just want to reiterate: if you have any comments, any questions regarding these mistakes that we're seeing successful family businesses make, feel free to chime in the comment section below. We'd love to get your feedback and potentially answer any questions or clarification pieces that you might have and ask of us towards the end of the show today. But Homer, to keep the train rolling, so to speak, what would be a third wealth planning pitfall that you're seeing family-owned businesses making, and what would one that you should highlight that we need to watch out for?
Yeah, another one that we see often are the patriarch or matriarch of the family business often being overly secretive around the
Mm.
goings on in the business, and not really informing the next generation of some critical issues related to the business. And unfortunately, they're not finding out oftentimes until the will is read. And while the intentions are often good for creating a lot of this secrecy around the business, trying to keep family cohesion together and not create any sort of conflict within the family, unfortunately, it most often leads to the opposite. And from the research we've done, we know that 70%, or at least a large number of wealth transfers, don't make it past the second generation.
Mm.
And the primary reason, or the main reasons for that, is first and foremost, there's not enough trust and communication between and among generations. And then the second one is heirs just aren't prepared for the wealth. And so this secrecy that often goes on between generations was one of the key reasons for this. So you don't have to be 100% transparent with everything going on in the business and every detail, but the key decisions around the business and the future of the business for those key family members that are going to be a part of the management of that family business in the future, they should be involved and should be at least informed of what's going on at that level.
And Homer, I love that you bring this mistake up kind of on the coattails of us having the conversation regarding the family constitution, because, clarity is so important around this. Your the succession doesn't make it past the second, level of an heir. I mean, that's hard to hear. It's hard to hear, especially when a matriarch or patriarch works their tail off to develop their wealth, has all these goals and aspirations for the family's legacy moving forward, only to see that dissipate over generations. It's got to be frustrating. The old adage, rolling over in a grave. I mean, it's got to be tough to see, especially as a wealth planner yourself. So that being said, Homer, any other, big mistakes that you'd want to warn people about today when it comes to running a successful family business?
And I think one that's it's kind of related to the secrecy. Another one is oftentimes they set up these plans, these wealth plans, to really solve for all of their big goals and their needs, but they're not updated often enough. We talked about how family businesses are complicated. There's a lot going on, and the dynamics can change over time. The economy can change over time, and a lot of times people do these complex plans and they just kind of check the box that, hey, we're good. But the problem is, as things change, the plan needs to be able to change with it. And so it's really important that family business owners, the team surrounding that they're making regular updates to the plan. There's things they got to be watching out for as they move forward within that, and making sure it's flexible and in flux and can keep up with the changing times.
Right, Homer. The times are a changing. There's so much to consider these days. I mean, when we first launched our show, we were on the coattails of the COVID-19 pandemic. We discussed the importance of stress testing around the uncertainty that COVID brought along with it. Obviously, the presidential election was happening at the same time. I mean, there was so much to consider and so much uncertainty that would obviously change, in many cases, a wealth strategy for a given family. So you want to stay on top of that. So then my next question, which begs to be asked at this point, is what should families be doing, Homer, to, adjust or make sure their plans aren't outdated?
Yeah, so for those families who maybe haven't quite kept up to date as much as they'd like, this concept that we've discussed of stress testing, of looking at the core elements of their plan is really critical. And we want to make sure that, number one, that there aren't mistakes being made. Two, we want to address whether there's been major changes in the economy or in just the dynamics of the business itself, and that those changes aren't being overlooked. We also want to make sure, have there been changes in the dynamics of the family that we want to make sure aren't being overlooked when it comes to the long-term planning for the business. And then finally, are there new solutions or strategies or tax laws that have changed that we can put into place, these new strategies to address those changes that are happening and improve the overall dynamic structure, finances of the business, just by regularly making those updates to the overall plan.
And Homer, what would be the fifth and final big mistake that you see family business owners making these days?
Yeah, the last big one, and I've definitely seen this, is this belief that if a family business actually sells to an outside party not in the family, that it's a failure in some way. The
Mm.
people running these family businesses, they really see that it's their legacy to keep this family business going and making it successful, and it might be even a disgrace if they're not able to keep it within the family. And oftentimes even some of the advisors that they're working with are helping them with this, and putting structures in place where they require that or prohibit the sale of the business to anybody outside of the family. And while this is seems right, you want to keep this family business going within the family, the problem becomes, well, what happens if in the future generations they're not interested in being part of the family business anymore for whatever reason? And now you have these complex structures in place that require every single family member to agree on an outside sale. It could lead to a lot of conflict within the family. And so, again, not to say that every family business should be looking to sell outside the family. I'm not saying that by any stretch, but I think what's
Mhm.
more important is that they remain flexible and just not put structures in place that for future generations ends up unwinding the business completely because of those structures that they put into place.
Sure, sure. So much to consider here. Given all these mistakes that you've laid out in front of us. I mean, at the very beginning of our conversation, Umber, we were simply laying out the importance behind having a wealth advisor to work with, a wealth manager to work with, given the mistakes that we were about to address. So, Homer, we've scared our audience, if anything, today in addressing some of these mistakes. Any encouraging words, next steps, things that they should be considering, things that they should do today if they're thinking, hey, I have a family business. Yeah, I always thought that maybe I would hand it down to my son or daughter, but I don't seem to be addressing any of these. What would be your thoughts for that individual?
I think the easiest step is obviously one we've hit on already is just review your plan and
Hmm.
bring your team together, your team of advisors, and make sure that you're addressing all the key issues, having open conversations with the rest of the family about the purpose and the future of this business and what you want to accomplish with it. And then, working with that team to address the concerns that come up. And, if you have the right team in place, the good news is even if there's some challenges ahead of you, they're going to be able to help you develop the roadmap that's going to ultimately help you plan down the road to get to your amazing life of significance. So whatever that is for you, is just having the right team in place is the most important component for that.
Teamwork makes the dream work. It's the age old adage. Well, hey, look, Homer, I really appreciate you taking your time to dive into these core mistakes that we're seeing successful family businesses make. I know we're probably going to touch on various assets, various things that face a family business. We mentioned the Constitution. Here are the mistakes. We're going to be talking family businesses in episodes to come, but still appreciate you shedding some light on these mistakes for us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Well, hey, look, and we want to thank you, our audience, our viewers, those who are joining us on the live stream today. If you have any questions for future episodes, maybe even some topics that you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out on whatever platform that you're, consuming our show on. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get your feedback and engage with you and incorporate some of those thoughts and questions into our show. Homer and I will be back next month with another great episode featuring a different financial topic. That topic will be decided soon enough. But ultimately, for Homer Smith, I'm Ryan Ruff. We thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Advance Your Wealth, and we'll see you again on the next one.